Okay.
Okay. So shall we start?
Okay, Atisham.
Shall I start? Am I audible?
Yes, Atisham.
Okay. So good evening, all of us. Uh, today's our topic of discussion is the glomerular filtration. So it is one of the most important phenomenon and process of our affecting the urine formation and maintaining homeostasis of our body. So for the further discussion, I would like to invite Mr. Satish Nayak to explain what is glomerular filtration, glomerular filtrate. So Satish, just come and say something about your topic.
Thank you, Hanifi. Good evening, everyone. My name is Satish Nayak. Uh, Today, I'll be discussing about glomerular filtration. You might be wondering how the urine formation will be happening in our body and the metabolism behind it. So, if we wonder like that, uh, this is where the glomerular filter enters and says, "Hello, I'm here. Consider me." That is the first step and in the formation of urine. The glomerular filtration, like the kidneys, will um, take absorb some liquids from the blood, and they will send it to the collecting tubules. So here some amino acid, glucose, and other urea, such type of materials will be dispatched. This happens due to the pressure difference between glomerular afferent and efferent arterioles. So such thing we have to discuss it a much in a higher way. So I request my teammates will do that, and I'll pass it to the next person to discuss briefly about the next steps of the glomerular filtration. Thank you.
Thank you, Satish. Uh, you're nice presenting. So now I'm inviting Miss Gayatri Dash on the topic of uh, what is the mechanism of formation of glomerular filtrate and so on. So Gayatri Dash, please come and say something.
The process by which the glomerular filtration occurs is called the renal ultrafiltration. This involves the passage across a filtration membrane. There are three filtration membrane. This is called capillary endothelium, lamina densa, and the filtration slits. At first, we will know about this. These are the general terms after discussing all the process. That the glomerular capillaries. Glomerular capillaries are like fenestrated capillaries. These are pores which are with a diameter 60 to 100 nanometer, and this prevents the passage of blood cells, and this allows the diffusion of solutes including the plasma proteins. Then the lamina densa. This is the it is more selective. It only allows diffusion only, and it allows the diffusion of small plasma proteins and the nutrients and some ions. Then we will discuss some filtration pressure, like that glomerular filtration is occurred due to balance between two filtration pressure, that is hydrostatic pressure, which is the fluid pressure, and one is the colloid osmotic pressure, that is of material which are present in that solution on either side of the capillary wall. That the glomerular hydrostatic pressure we will discuss first some about the pushing force exerted by the pressure in a blood vessel. It is a type of it is a primary force that which drives the glomerular filtration, and is it is the blood pressure in the blood capillaries, which tends to push water and solutes molecule uh, to out of the plasma and into the filtrate. It is significant higher than capillary pressure in systemic circuit. And then we will discuss that what is capsular hydrostatic pressure, which we denote as CSHP. It opposes the glomerular hydrostatic pressure. That is, it opposite to glomerular hydrostatic pressure, and it pushes the water and solutes, that is from out of the filtrate and into the plasma, which results the resistance to flow along nephron and with the conducting system. It nearly average about 15 millimeter Hg. Then after that, by difference in between these two, glomerular hydrostatic pressure and capsular hydrostatic pressure, we will get the net hydrostatic pressure. And we will come to the process that filtration which produced by the glomerulus when the hydrostatic pressure produced by the heart pushes water and solutes through the filtration membrane. Glomerular filtration is a passive process as cellular energy is not used at the filtration membrane to produce the filtrate. And the filtrate membrane lies in between the blood in the glomerulus and the filtrate in the Bowman's capsule. And this filtrate membrane is highly fenestrated. That means it is having pores, and it allows the passage of small molecules such as water, sodium, glucose, etc. As the filtration occurs as a pressure forces fluid and solutes through a semi-permeable barrier with the solute movement constrained by the particle size. It depends on the particle size. Hydrostatic pressure is the pressure which is produced by the fluid at against a surface. That means the blood inside the glomerulus creates glomerular hydrostatic pressure, which forces fluid out of the glomerulus. Then the fluid in the glomerular capsule, it creates pressure which pushing fluid out of the glomerular capsule and then back into the glomerulus, opposing the glomerular hydrostatic pressure. That is the glomerular pressure. This is the capsular hydrostatic pressure. These fluids exerts a pressure in opposing direction, that is called the net fluid movement, will be in the direction of the lower pressure. However, the concentration of the solute in the fluid affects net movement of the fluid as well. And then at last, the glomerular filtration occurs when glomerular blood, that is the hydrostatic pressure, exerts the hydrostatic pressure on the glomerular capsule and the blood colloid osmotic pressure. The sum of all the influences, both osmotic and hydrostatic, result in a net filtration pressure, that is the NFP. And then the glomerular hydrostatic pressure is typically about 55 milligram Hg, pushing fluid into the glomerular capsule. This outward pressure is continued by typical capsular hydrostatic pressure of about 15 milligram per Hg and a blood colloid osmotic pressure of 30 milligram of Hg. To calculate the NFP, we have a formula, that is the glomerular blood hydrostatic pressure, that is GBHP, minus capsular hydrostatic pressure CHP plus blood colloid osmotic pressure, that is BCOP. That's all about the glomerular filtration, how the glomerular filtration formed. I invite my next teammate to proceed this. Thank you.
Thank you, Gayatri Dash. Now I am welcoming Ms. Trisha Lakshmi for her topic on anatomy of filtration membrane. So Trisha Lakshmi, please come and say something on your topic, anatomy of filtration membrane. Thank you.
Good afternoon to one and all present here. This is Trisha. I'm here to talk about the topic called anatomy of glomerular filtration. The glomerular filtration occurs in the Bowman's capsule with the help of glomerulus. The glomeruli are the small round clusters of capillaries which are surrounded by a double-walled capsule called Bowman's capsule. This Bowman's capsule in turn connects with a long tubule. The glomerulus regulates the renal blood flow, glomerular filtration rate, and the systemic blood pressure. The glomerulus is composed of 3 different types of cells. They are endothelial cells, epithelial, and smooth muscle cells. The afferent and efferent arteriole are lined with a single layer of endothelial cells. And these endothelial cells are unique, which contains pores in it. They are about 70 to 100 nanometer in diameter, which helps in the filtration process. These molecules, these pores are just made to block the passage of the blood cells and large molecules like proteins. The next is the smooth muscles. They are of 3 types, intraglomerular mesangial cells, extraglomerular mesangial cells, and granular cells. Each is of different function. The intraglomerular mesangial cells influence the glomerular filtration rate by regulating glomerular capillary surface area. The extraglomerular mesangial cells are located outside the Bowman's capsule and respond to the chemical signals that originate from the cells, which influences the release of calcium ions. In the granular cells, the calcium suppresses the release of renin. The cells that make up the Bowman space are known as parietal cells. These are specialized epithelial cells, which is a cup-like structure that surrounds the glomerular capillaries formed to collect the ultrafiltrate. Once it is drained, it directly drains into the tubules. And that's it for the anatomy of glomerular filtration.
Thank you, Trisha Lakshmi, for your good presentation. And
Thank you.
now it's time for Celine Jennifer Simon. So I am welcoming Miss Celine Jennifer Simon on her topic, what is GFR? So Miss Celine Jennifer Simon, please come and say something on this topic. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. Myself, Celine Jennifer Simon, and today I'm here to present about the glomerular filtration rate. Glomerular filtration rate, that is GFR, is defined as the total quantity of filtrate formed in all the nephrons of both the kidneys in the given unit of time. The total amount of titrate formed per minute by the kidneys. The normal GFR is 125 ml per minute, or about 180 liters per day. The rate at which kidneys filter blood is called glomerular filtration rate. The main driving force for the filtration process or outward pressure is the blood pressure as it enters the glomerulus. This is counteracted to some extent by inward pressure due to the hydrostatic pressure of the fluid within the urinary space and the pressure generated by the proteins left in the capillaries that tend to pull water back into the circulatory system. That is colloidal osmotic pressure. The net filtration pressure is the outward pressure minus the inward pressure. The GFR is equal to Kf into glomerular capillary hydrostatic pressure, outward favor filtration, minus Bowman capsule hydrostatic pressure, inward oppose filtration, minus glomerular capillary oncotic pressure, inward oppose filtration, Bowman space minus Bowman space oncotic pressure outward favor filtration. Ultrafiltration occurs because of Starling forces, that is hydrostatic and oncotic pressures. Filtration fraction. Filtration fraction is the fraction or portion of the renal plasma which becomes the filtrate. It is the ratio between renal plasma flow and glomerular filtration rate. It is expressed in percentage. Filtration fraction is equal to glomerular filtration rate into 100 divided by renal plasma flow. When we calculate it with the normal GFR, it gives 19.2%. The normal filtration fraction values varies from 15% to 20%. In women, it is 10% lower than in men. In 24-hour period, 180 liters per day of plasma is filtered in glomerulus. 99% or more is reabsorbed. Only 1% or less is excreted as urine. After age of 30 years, GFR declines with age. If GFR is too high, needed substances cannot be reabsorbed quickly enough or are lost in the urine. If the GFR is too low, everything is reabsorbed, including waste that are normally disposed. Thank you.
Thank you, Selim, for your good presentation. Now it's time for Ms. Nandita Meenakshi Sundaram. So I am welcoming Ms. Nandita Meenakshi Sundaram on her topic regulation of GFR. So Nandita Meenakshi Sundaram, please present your topic. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Nandita. So far, we have seen what is glomerular filtration rate. Now, I am here to discuss about the regulation of glomerular filtration rate. GFR is regulated through several mechanisms. Firstly, renal blood flow is the main cause for GFR. So, the renal blood flow is relatively constant over a wide range of mean arterial pressures, which is known as myogenic response. Okay, then if there is an increase in hydrostatic pressure in the afferent arteriole, it stretches the vascular smooth muscle, activating the inward flow of ion channels, leading to depolarization and contraction. This prevents pathologic increases in renal blood flow that would damage the kidney. Notably, this is a localized effect and it is independent of the autonomic regulation. Next, falling in the blood pressure does the opposite. It dilates the afferent arteriole and preserves the blood flow to the kidney. Secondly, the most important regulation pattern for GFR is the renin-angiotensin-aldosterone system, which is a very important in the aspect of regulation of GFR. The juxtaglomerular cells in the afferent arteriole releases renin in response to decreased stretch. Circulating renin activates the liver-synthesized angiotensinogen to angiotensin 1, which is further acted upon by angiotensin-converting enzyme in the lungs to activate the angiotensin 2, which is a potent vasoconstrictor. This angiotensin 2 rises the systemic blood pressure and stimulates the release of aldosterone, which in turn promotes the sodium retention or the potassium secretion and further increases the blood pressure. In both the cases, preserving the renal perfusion and maintaining the GFR. Next, moving on to the third mechanism, which is the tubuloglomerular feedback. The macula densa in the thick ascending limb senses an increase in GFR through increased delivery of electrolytes. The increased flow leads to an increased intracellular chlorine concentration, thus depolarizing the cell and leading to the release of ATP, adenosine, and thromboxane. These paracrine mediators, they contract the nearby smooth muscles in the afferent arteriole to reduce renal blood flow and thus return the GFR back to normal. So these are the three important mechanisms for regulation of GFR. Thank you.
Thank you, Nandita, for your well presentation. And like, so it's time for Sahil Ramantanti. So I'm welcoming Mr. Sahil Ramantanti for on his topic, glomerular capillary filtration coefficient. So Mr. Sahil Ramantanti, please present your topic. Thank you.
net filtration pressure grows membrane. Guys, I'm audible, right?
Sahil, your audio was not perfect. There are slight disturbances.
I think Sahil has left out. So now I am welcoming Mr. Siddharth Sampath on his topic, colloidal osmotic pressure. So Siddharth, Mr. Siddharth, please come and say something about colloidal osmotic pressure and the various types of pressure. Thank you.
Thank you, Hanifi. So, as Hanifi has already mentioned, I'll be talking to you guys about glomerular capillary colloidal osmotic pressure, which can also be called as colloidal osmotic pressure simply. So, first let us see what colloidal osmotic pressure means. It is the pressure that is exerted by plasma proteins that are present in the blood on the glomerular membranes. So the plasma proteins exert a pressure on the glomerular membranes, and this pressure is called as colloidal osmotic pressure. It has been measured and roughly estimated to be around 32 mmHg. Of course, it's a range, it can vary. It's usually more in males than in females. So in males, it's around 33 to 34 mmHg, and in females, it's around 31.5 to 32. So how exactly does this affect the GFR? So when colloidal osmotic pressure increases, the GFR will decrease, and when colloidal osmotic pressure decreases, GFR will increase, which means that they are inversely proportional. And so now let's have a look at why they are inversely proportional. When blood flows into the glomerular apparatus, let's trace the flow of blood. It initially flows from the afferent arteriole into the glomerulus, that is the Bowman's capsule, and then from there it goes to the efferent arteriole. So when the blood goes through the Bowman's capsule, what happens is almost 1/5, that is 20% of the fluid content in the blood gets filtered into the glomerulus. So only 80%, that is 4/5. That's the fraction that moves into the efferent artery. And because of that, the net fluid volume of blood decreases, but the number of plasma proteins remains the same because plasma proteins cannot get filtered. So now there is less fluid and the same number of plasma proteins. So the relative concentration of plasma proteins has become bigger. So like this, almost 25% of the plasma protein concentration gets increased. And an increase in plasma protein concentration means that there has been a lot of glomerular filtration happening. So when the number of plasma proteins is high, the pressure they exert will also be high, and therefore the colloid osmotic pressure will be high. So we all know that there's something called as feedback mechanism in our body, and this is a regulatory mechanism. So when something is going out of control, there is a feedback mechanism that works to bring it under control. And when something is, happening at a very, very less rate than it's supposed to be happening, same feedback mechanism increases the rate. So now when colloid osmotic pressure increases rapidly, the body gets to know that there's too much of glomerular filtration happening, and what it does, it it gives a signal to reduce the glomerular filtration. And when the body gets a signal that there is like very little bit of glomerular filtration happening because there are, literally no plasma fragments, it will again give a signal to the, you know, it will give signals, and what will happen is the filtration rate increases, the glomerular filtration increases. So we can see that there's a beautiful feedback mechanism over here. There's a loop happening, and whenever there is a decrease, it gives an info and it increases the thing to the normal condition. Whenever there's a decrease, when there's an increase, it will again give a information and it will decrease it back to normal. So this is why colloidal osmotic pressure is a very, very important factor in regulating glomerular filtration. Thank you. That was my part.
Thank you, Siddharth, for your good presentation and discussion. So now it's time for Miss Ami Shahjan on her topic colloidal capsular hydrostatic pressure. So now I am welcoming Miss Ami Shahjan on her topic. Please say something about capsular hydrostatic pressure. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. My topic is capsular hydrostatic pressure. So when the blood from glomerulus filtrate into the Bowman's capsule, a pressure is developed in response to the filtrate entering the Bowman's capsule, and that pressure is called hydrostatic pressure in the Bowman's capsule. This pressure normally has an opposing nature to the rate of glomerular filtration. And when the hydrostatic pressure increases, the rate of glomerular filtration decreases. And this force is not a primary mechanism for the controlling of glomerular filtration. And the major times when this hydrostatic pressure increases is during the blockage of urinary system due to formation of kidney stones or tumors. This hydrostatic pressure is normally overshadowed by the hydrostatic pressure formed in glomerulus, and the filtration takes place smoothly most of the time. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Ami Shahjan, for your good presentation and taking part in our discussion. So now I am welcoming Ms. Arita Srijiu on her topic, glomerular hydrostatic pressure. So Ms. Arita, please come and say something about your topic. Thank you.
Hi guys, this is Arita Sri from Life Science. Here I'm going to share some points on glomerular capillary hydrostatic pressure. And in that, we can say it is the most essential glomerular capillary hydrostatic pressure. And we can say under normal condition, the glomerular capillary hydrostatic pressure will be like 60 mmHg. It almost depends upon three factors. One is arterial pressure, and another one is afferent arterial resistance, and the next one is efferent arterial resistance. So the glomerular capillary hydrostatic pressure, we can say it is directly proportional to the glomerular filtration rate. I mean like GFR. If there is an increase in glomerular capillary hydrostatic pressure, there will be directly increase in GFR. I mean it's directly proportional. If there is decrease, there is also a decrease in GFR. If in the first factor will be arterial pressure. If arterial pressure increases, the PGC, I mean the glomerular capillary hydrostatic pressure will also increases, thereby it increases the GFR. The second factor is afferent arterial resistance, which increased means that will reduces that particular hydrostatic pressure. I mean like glomerular capillary hydrostatic pressure, and thereby decreases the GFR. So it is indirectly proportional. If it increases, that will decrease. So if suppose the dilution increases on afferent arterial resistance now, it increases the particular glomerular capillary hydrostatic pressure, thereby it increases the GFR. Then the third factor will be efferent arterial resistance. If there is the resistance, and thereby the glomerular capillary hydrostatic pressure will increases. As long as the increase in efferent resistance doesn't reduce that or doesn't affect the renal blood flow, filtration fraction, and glomerular colloid osmotic pressure. When or if the constriction of efferent becomes about threefold, that will rise in colloid osmotic pressure, which exceeds an increase of glomerular capillary hydrostatic pressure. When this situation occurs, the net force for the filtration will be decreases, which cause restriction in GFR. So we can say that efferent arterial resistance is a biphasic one. Which means it has some biphasic effect on GFR. At moderate level of constriction, there is a slight increase in GFR. But with severe constriction, there is a decrease in GFR. To summarize, the arterial pressure increases now. That particular glomerular capillary hydrostatic pressure increases, thereby it increases the GFR. If there is a constriction of afferent arterial is there now, it will reduces the GFR by reducing the glomerular capillary hydrostatic pressure. And for the effect of efferent arterial resistance or constriction, that depends upon the severity of constriction. Modest efferent constriction means it will rises the GFR, but severe constriction, that is about threefold of its now, reduces the GFR. So that's all my topic. Thank you.
Thank you, Adita Sri, for your well presentation and taking part in discussion. So, for R. Nandana on her topic, factors affecting GFR. So now I am welcoming Miss R. Nandana on her topic, factors affecting GFR. Please say something on her topic.
Hey everyone, this is Anna and today I'll be talking about the factors affecting GFR. So the first factor is the renal blood flow. So as the renal blood flow increases, the glomerular filtration rate also increases. The second factor is the glomerular capillary hydrostatic pressure. So as it increases the net filtration pressure. So it is going to increase the GFR. The third factor is the hydrostatic pressure in Bowman's capsule. So this also has an effect in the net filtration pressure. This decreases the net filtration pressure, so it decreases the GFR. The fourth factor is the efferent or efferent arteriole constriction. So constriction of both these arterioles causes the increase in vascular resistance. So this reduces renal blood flow, which causes decrease in GFR. The fifth factor is the ureteral obstruction. So as the obstruction increases, GFR decreases. Sixth one is the concentration of plasma proteins. So as the concentration of plasma protein increases, it increases the colloidal osmotic pressure, which causes the drawing of fluids through osmosis, which decreases the GFR. Then the next factor is the filtration coefficient. So the filtration coefficient is directly proportional to the GFR, which means that as the filtration coefficient increases, GFR increases, and as the filtration coefficient decreases, GFR also decreases. Then the last two factors are the surface area of filtration and glomerular capillary permeability. Thank you.
Thank you, R. Nandana, for your good presentation and taking part of today's discussion. Now I'm welcoming Ms. on her topic, how GFR works in our body. So Ms. Gayatri, please say something on your topic. Thank you. I think she has gone. Once again, she has some networking issue. So now I'm welcoming Miss Sochanfi Keshing on her topic about what is urine and how it's a process of formation like that. So Miss Sochan, please come and say something about the topic. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Atesham. Now that we have learned more about glomerular filtration, it's impossible not to know why we make urine. So it's not a surprising fact that we produce urine, and it's an obligatory process. Like regardless of what's happening in our body, urine production will still take place even if we are like severely hydrated. Why is it? Is it because it is because we have to maintain our body homeostasis. Now, as we all know, our body will metabolize all the things that we take in. That is, either we eat or we drink. And this is all to produce energy and also to produce our building blocks that is required in our body. Also, while doing this, varieties of waste products will be produced, which is not necessary to be which can't be used up or can't be stored in our body. Hence, we have to eliminate it. And along with these waste products, that is mainly urea, creatine, and other electrolytes, there are some of the substances which needs to be eliminated out too. So those non-water soluble, they are eliminated out as a fees, mostly the solids and all. And those water soluble, they are eliminated out as urine. Now also, we have seen changes of color in urine. That is mainly because of the medications that we use and also some of the food that has color. So this is also a crucial evidence that shows that our body is eliminating those soluble pigments also. Now, making urine is a complicated process, and for this, our kidneys has this specialized structure that is called nephrons. And as Satish has already mentioned, that glomerular filtration is the first step for the process of urine, and we have already learned that part, so I'll not go into detail with that. Now, I give thanks to Atesham for giving me this time. Next on, we can go with the next topic. Thank you.
Thank you, Sochan, for your good presentation and taking part of today's discussion on the topic of glomerular filtration. Now I'm requesting Ms. Santi Mireddy Gari Gayatri Venkat. So if you are you have a good network issue, then please say something about your topic, how GFR works on our in our body. Thank you. Please, yes, Gayatri, say something about your topic. Hello.
Is Gayatri here?
Yes, she is here, but I don't know why she is not responding. Shall we wait for a few more minutes?
Yeah, if Sahil is also there, we can give chance to him. Let's see.
Sahil, hello.
Hello. Hanifi, am I audible to you, Hanifi?
Yes, Gayatri Venkat, you are audible for me. Yes. Please say something about your topic, how GFR works.
Gayatri, you can speak now.
No, okay, now. Hello. Sochan, am I audible?
Yes, Gayatri, yes, you can carry.
Glomerular filtration is the first step in making urine. It is the process that our kidneys use to filter excess fluid and waste products out of the blood into the urine collecting tubules of the kidney. So they may be eliminated from our body. How glomerular filtration works. The first step is making urine is to separate the liquid part of our body, which contains all the dissolved solutes from your body cells. Each nephron is in your kidneys have a microscopic filter called as glomerulus that is constantly filtering your blood. Blood that is about to filter enters a glomerulus, which is top of blood capillaries. The glomerulus is nested inside a cup-like sac located at the end of each nephron called a glomerular capsule. Glomerular capillaries have small pores in their walls, such just like a very fine mesh sieves. Most beds are sandwiched between alveoli and veins. Hello.
Yes, you're still audible. Carry on.
That's it, Sochan.
Okay, thank you. Yes, Gayatri, for your good presentation and something like that. So now I'm requesting Mr. Sahil Ramantanti for present on aberration coefficient if possible. Mr.
Yeah.
Sahil Ramantanti.
Hello, Anifi.
Yes, if there is
Yeah,
a good connection.
am I audible?
Yeah, of course. You're
Okay. Okay. I'll get on with my topic. It is filtration coefficient. In physiology, filtration coefficient is a product of a biological membrane's permeability to water and the surface area of the membrane. The rate of filtration across the membrane is, by definition, the product of Kf and the net filtration pressure across the membrane. As we all know, the red blood cells, plasma proteins, and white blood cells are not normally found in urine. It is because of the filtration barrier, which restricts the passage of molecules based on size and charge, with a bias towards restricting negatively charged molecules more than neutral or positively charged molecules. We have to know the term perm selectivity, which also stays the same. It states that it is basically the restriction of permeation of macromolecules across a capillary wall on the basis of molecular size, charge, and physical configuration. The size and charge of a molecule influences its perm selectivity. Likewise, the glomerular endothelial capillary surface area, the number of capillary pores, and the permeability and the structural integrity of the basement membrane and podocyte foot processes influences the permeability or conductivity of the filtration barrier. This is referred to as the filtration coefficient, and it is denoted as Kf. And like perm selectivity, it ranges from 0 to 1, with 0 lacking any conductivity and 1 being maximally conductive. The filtration coefficient reflects conductivity of all glomeruli and plays a central role in net ultrafiltration pressure. Therefore, it is used in the equation used to calculate the net ultrafiltration process. I will end my topic with that. Sorry about the network issue.
Thank you, Sahil, for your good presentation and taking part of today's discussion. So, is it all the discussion which have given by our friends on the various subtopics of glomerular filtration and its mechanism. So now it's time for time of conclusion. So now, first of all, it is saying what is glomerular filtration, so or filtrate. So it is an amount of substance which is formed during the process of filtration from glomerular capillary and Bowman capsule. So it is called glomerular filtrate. It is about normal GFR of our body is 125 ml per minute or 180 liter per day. So it is why glomerular filtration needed? Because in our body lots of metabolic activities occur in every second, in each and every cell. So the waste product of these metabolic activities needed to excrete out, and many uh, water insoluble liquid waste materials like urea, creatinine, phosphate, like it is excrete out with the help of urine. And glomerular filtration is the first step in our urine formation and maintaining homeostasis of our body. So in this mechanism now, first afferent arteriole comes and the blood in afferent arteriole is called renal blood, which is a full of various substance, wanted and unwanted substance like uh, creatinine, phosphate, urea, and wanted substance like amino acids, plasma proteins, glucose, lipids, very high density lipid, low density lipid, monounsaturated fatty acids, polyunsaturated fatty acid, like this. These are the some few wanted substance which are essential for our body. So we have there is a need to separate it, and glomerular filtration is the process that filtrate the wanted and that filter the wanted and unwanted substance from blood and maintains our homeostasis. So as renal blood in the glomerulus, and then there is a filter fenestrae in the membrane of glomerulus that whose diameter is a 0.1 micrometer. So all the substance whose size is less than 0.1 micrometer filtered out except plasma protein. That plasma protein goes in the peritubule capillary of kidney or nephron, whatever. So the another reason for not taking filtering of protein in nephron is that basement membrane is made up of heparan sulfate, which is a negatively charged, and protein is also negatively charged. So this is the charge of repulsion prevent the filtration of plasma protein. After that, this filtrate comes in basement membrane and Bowman capsule. It is called glomerular filtrate, which is 125 ml per minute, whose rate of filtration is 125 ml per minute and 180 liter per day. So there is a various factors that affects the formation of GFR, and which are said by Nandana, and there is a lots of regulatory mechanism which are also explained by Nandita, and there is physiological pressure. Pressure is the major key in the formation of GFR. So there's mainly three type of pressure: glomerular hydrostatic pressure, capsular hydrostatic pressure in Bowman capsule, and colloidal osmotic pressure, which is dealt by our friend Siddharth, Ami Shajan, and Aritasri, respectively. So apart from these processes and physiological mechanism, the GFR form. And this GFR or glomerular filtrate goes into various processes like reabsorption and secretion, and now formed a urine, so which is dealt by Sojanification. So after all, urine formed and our the very unwanted substance like urine, creatinine, phosphate, and some other factors also excrete our body. So this is the conclusion of our today's topic. Thank you all of our friends.
Thank you. I will now end the recording.